Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of With Whom on Zoom. I am Saskia, the assistant editor of Voice, and today we're going to be joined by Tabitha Rubens, who is the winner of the BBC Young Writers Award for 2021, and we're going to be discussing Tabitha's winning piece and what inspires her to be a writer. So hi Tabitha, thank you so much for joining.
Hi, lovely to be here.
Lovely to have you as well. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your creative interests?
So my name's Tabitha. I'm currently studying at university and I love writing. I think short stories in particular are great fun because you basically have to condense a world into a few thousand words. And I think it's incredible to write a story that addresses an issue that matters to you, but I like to do so using a really uplifting tone. So I don't think stories should be miserable. I think they can address serious topics, but do so in a humorous and sort of touching way.
Absolutely, and they're more accessible that way as well. You know, people read to escape. They don't always want to read doom and gloom.
Definitely.
So how has your writing style developed since The Invisible Zoo, which won the H.G. Wells International Short Story Prize competition?
So I think I've improved so much the more I write. I think that's kind of how writing works. You get better at writing by writing. I think in terms of Super Powder, it's very different to The Invisible Zoo, which is a slightly longer, still short story. But Super Powder, the competition, you can only write 1,000 words. So I tried to make it stand out in a different way. So for example, the words kind of move on the page to catch your eye. And the story is about sort of advertising and manipulation in a way. So while the story sort of criticizes the manipulation we get by these kind of quick fixes that are sold on platforms like social media, but it also sort of manipulates the reader in itself, and it reads a little bit like an advertising campaign.
Oh wow, sounds really interesting. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I definitely will. So what was your inspiration behind Super Powder?
So as I said before, it's sort of about marketing, and ultimately it's inspired by this idea of perfection. So the story focuses on a miracle product, Super Powder, which promises to fix any of the customers' perceived inadequacies, mirroring a lot of quick fixes and kind of snake oil products that are marketed towards us all the time. But in reality, it's just talcum powder. It's not going to do anything. Ultimately, it's kind of addressing the issue of perfection that's promoted all the time, and saying that perfection isn't an attainable reality, it's a construct. And I think we'd be a lot happier, healthier, and to be honest, have a lot more money if we rejected it and kind of found more comfort in ourselves as we already are.
Absolutely. I mean, something like that is definitely very fitting for like the kind of society that we live in now. The amount of ads that are being thrown at us every single day on social media, like you said. So I can imagine that this story would have definitely resonated with a lot of people.
I hope so.
How long did it take you to write the story?
I wrote it, I think it was back in February during a lockdown. I feel like it was. I can't remember now, there's been too many. So I had kind of a bit more time on my hands. But I think once I have, it takes me longer to kind of come up with an idea. And once I have an idea, I just kind of want to get it all down on the page. And so I kind of go and run with it. So I think I wrote it all in kind of a couple of days. So yeah, I don't know if that's quick or not.
No, it is pretty quick, especially, with the editing process and stuff. Is that something you like to be quite hands-on with, or do you get other people to read your work?
I can never bring myself to let other people read my stuff. So I
Oh,
always enter, or if I do, when I have entered these competitions, I'll kind of enter and not tell anyone. And then if it gets shortlisted or it wins, I'll be really happy, and then I'll let other people read it because it's sort of like, oh, then someone can check. But I love editing it myself, and I think I'm while I reject this idea of perfection, I'm to a certain extent a perfectionist in writing. So I'll kind of look over it and I want to make sure it's as good as it can be before I show anyone.
mhm. So do you kind of write it, put it down for a day, and then go back to it with fresh eyes to, go through that editing process?
Definitely. I think it's always good to kind of leave it for a few days and then look over it again if you want to write. That definitely always helps me.
Yeah, because sometimes when you're writing, you can get in that phase where everything sounds like gold, and then 2 days later, you're like, oh my God, that was terrible.
100%.
So you've done this one about advertising, speaking on some of the issues that we face in society today. What kind of other themes do you want to explore in the future with your next piece?
I think a lot of issues that kind of matter to me. So currently those are things like breaking the stigma around mental health,
Mhm.
and things like the environment, and environmental awareness. And I think that's the thing I love about writing, is you can kind of see what matters to you at the time and what kind of moves you, and then make a story, as I said, that has a kind of uplifting tone but still touches on these important issues.
Mhm. And have you started writing anything about the environment yet?
Yeah, I think so. I've been writing a kind of story that's aimed at kind of slightly younger audience, but I'll sort of see how it develops. So hopefully there'll be something to do with that in the future.
And with your audiences, like obviously you're quite young yourself, so are you writing for other young people, or do you tend to write for like younger ones or older audiences?
I think I try to write with a kind of universal style.
Mhm.
So I'm not writing aimed at teenagers. I think while we're looking at things like the super powder, it touches on perfection and social media and issues that are very relevant to a teenage audience, but it
Mhm.
also highlights that these issues don't just affect young people. It makes it clear that kind of whatever your age, whoever you are, you're going to be affected by insecurity. And so I hope that my stories kind of have a slight element of universalism, in that anyone can read them and enjoy them no matter how old you are.
Mhm.
That's what I'm aiming for, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. Insecurities are definitely not something that just affect young people. It goes for all the generations, sadly. So I'm sure it does have universal application, absolutely. So what are you currently studying at university, and where do you want your writing to take you?
So currently I'm studying Chinese at
Oh.
university. And I think studying a language really makes you think about how you use words and
Mhm.
the importance of language, which I really love. And I think in the future, I'd love to be an author, an illustrator, hopefully, and also to work with young people, because I think that young people have so much to say, but often don't have opportunities to kind of raise their voices. And something that the BBC Young Writers Award has really done for me is given me a platform to sort of talk to people like you, and write about things that matter to me. So I'd love to help other young people sort of speak out about things that matter to them.
And do you think you'll work any of the Chinese that you've learned into one of your next stories?
I don't know, we'll have to see.
How is it going? It's quite a hard language to learn, isn't it? Because it's a lot about tone as well as it is, the different words.
Definitely, it's really difficult, but I'm really enjoying it. And I've met some amazing people at university, so I'm having a
Mhm.
great time.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Like, wasn't expecting you to say that you were literature or something, but no, Chinese, go for it. Do you have any advice for other young people who, want to get into writing or?
I think, as I said before, you get better at writing by writing. So just write,
Mhm.
go for it. Submit for things. I think a lot of people don't submit stuff because they're worried that they'll fail,
Mhm.
and that doesn't just go for writing. This is kind of universal advice, because you can't get something unless you go for it. And I've been rejected by things. I've entered competitions that I haven't won, and I think every time I looked at that and I thought, oh, I know why. I know what I can do to make my writing better. And it's definitely a process. So I would say just write, and as you do, you'll improve and you'll realize what you want to write about.
So what was the process like for you with the BBC Young Writers Award? Like, so you entered and then I guess you were shortlisted, longlisted.
Yeah, so I entered in, I think it was March was the deadline, and I found out in July, on my birthday. Actually, I found out that I got
Oh,
shot.
wow.
So it was a lovely birthday present. And then there was a kind of long wait over the summer where you couldn't tell anyone. And then it was announced in September. And then the winner was just announced a week ago in October. So it's been a long process, but I've had such an incredible experience, and all the other writers were so incredible and inspiring judges. And now I'm looking forward to, as part of a kind of prize for winning, I'm getting mentoring from Louise O'Neill, who's a wonderful writer who was
Oh,
one of the
wow.
judges. So I'm very excited for that.
That must have been so hard to keep it a secret for that many months.
Definitely.
Were you allowed to tell friends and family or just not like wider world?
No, it was very, very hush hush. So I
Very
kind of only
harsh.
reveal it in September.
I can imagine. So where else do you, just for other young people watching as well, so where do you kind of find the competitions that you enter?
I think if you're in school, maybe talk to your teachers, see if they're aware of it. And in general, you can just search online and loads of them come up. There are lots of really good competitions open to young people, and most of them are free to enter. Um,
Mhm.
so I would say, yeah, go for it, get writing, and have a search for a competition that looks like it appeals to you.
Amazing. So last thing I want to ask, it isn't one of my questions, but would you like to share a little extract from Super Powder?
Oh, yeah, sure. Our initial supply of super powder sells out in under an hour. Customers drain the shelf bone dry, sending tins of spaghetti hoops and packets of prawn cocktail crisps cascading in all directions as they grapple and grasp for the little glass bottles of pea green powder. To be fair, our advertising campaign was nothing short of genius. I spent an entire shift coming up with a slogan instead of rearranging the chewing gum display. Super powder. Popularity, perfection, power. Powdered. The alliteration is admittedly a touch cliche, but it serves its purpose. The queue stretches all the way down the road, made up of a plethora of characters, broad ranging by every distinction. There are gaggles of kids I know vaguely from school, all thigh high skirts and apple flavoured jewel. There are elderlies hunched like breaking waves, arching rice paper palms into withered grey caves. There are buggy bearing women with expensive skin, caked in lycra and needle thread thin. All sorts of people slouch in the line, scrolling through their phones and kicking the dusty ground.
Well done. Where can people read it? Because now I need to go and finish that story.
So there's an anthology with all the shortlisted stories in kind of written form if you want to see it, but it's also available on BBC Sounds when it's been recorded kind of professionally, which was really exciting part of the award.
Amazing. And where can people find you as well, Tabitha, online?
Um, Let me see. I don't.
Or more of your work?
More of my work. I think that I was also shortlisted in 2018, so we've got that story is also available on the BBC website. And then if you look at the HG Wells competition, I'm up there somewhere.
Amazing. Oh, thank you so much for joining us, and it's been so lovely to talk to you.
Thank you. It was lovely to talk to you too. Have a wonderful afternoon.
You too.